What is going on, guys? It's your boy Yaz. We are back here, and today we'll briefly be talking about whether or not we can skip this Dread team, which is basically the new Breaker team that we have into the squads here. You guys can kind of see all the teams that they're currently have now between the different toggles. Actually, they have this new Age of Fear toggle, which is interesting because it's weird. They didn't really have Shadow Conclave in here. But anyways, so sorry, getting off topic here. With regards to the Dread team, I don't believe we are going to be able to skip this team here, because I'll just kind of back it up a little bit here and briefly talk about some of the other teams we've already kind of had previously here. And actually, you know what? Let's kind of go back to the start of the year here to kind of give some context. But essentially, the onset of 3.0 stats started with the Winter Guard. And we had initially thought, okay, let's save some resources because we don't really know what's going on with the game. And, at that time, we had no idea that the Age of Fear was even coming, right? We knew there was another, next chase character, but we had no idea who it was, right? So we had initially skipped the Winter Guards, and that was fine with us. We had already brought up Omega Red and Red Guardian previously, so that was fine. We didn't build up Dark Star or Ursa or even Yelena, so that's, it is what it is. And we haven't really, with all the content that's been pumped out, we haven't really felt the impact of that. And then switching over to Redcon, similar situation. We did have to bring up Jeff. I initially wanted to skip this entire team altogether, but we saw how important it was to have certain key characters, and Jeff the Landshark was absolutely insane for the Blade Tower. So when the Blade Tower does come back, if you guys haven't already had a chance, definitely for sure bring Jeff up. And of course as well, if you have the resources to bring up your Retcon, they will be a good Battle World team for Maestro as well. But I didn't have the resources to shell out for that, so hence why he is the only one that's pretty much leveled up. And of course as well, we got lucky with Deadpool because he was level like 95-ish, and then we had the anniversary event, which basically brought him to tier 20 for us. Now, moving forward a little bit here, you may have skipped the Phoenix Force, which is fine, but then we had the onset of the new raid team, right? This team that was supposedly going to replace, the Spotlight raids and all that other stuff, and then they totally scrapped Spotlight raids. So this was kind of a little bit, kind of I think they kind of stealthed nerfed the Spotlight raids, right, without telling us about it, because now it's gone, right? And now we had Daring Warriors as well, because they were going to be needed basically for the last breaker, which was the Surfer breaker, right? So we had to bring up Daring Warriors, but luckily for us, we didn't have to bring Eclipse up to 7 yellow, 7 red to get a good placement in the leaderboards and to get all the shards as well for Surfer breaker. And hopefully he does come back here. Now, moving forward now, let's talk about the teams that basically started now with the Age of Fear. So we had Shadow Conclave, and then we also had Exalted, and then we also had Omen. Pretty much 3 teams within like the span of 2 weeks, right? And of course as well, initially we had built up a little bit of the Shadow Conclave because I'm a big Thanos fan, and I was like, you know what? This team looks exciting. This team looks great. But then we realized just how crappy they were in the Blade Tower. So anyways, we did build them up a little bit. And as you guys can see here, we didn't bring everybody up. We had a couple of characters we kind of just kept off the side. Sylvie was really massive, even though she was only level 100. So I kept her there. And on top of that, we had the diamonds to kind of support her stats. And we never brought up Malekith to that point as well here. We did bring him up to 95, but we didn't really push him as high as the other characters. And of course as well, the other two, Executioner and we have High Evolutionary, which, it was great. They actually, I thought they were quite well at the start, but then we realized we couldn't really use Shadow Conclave and the Surfer Breaker, so then they ended up being axed as well. So really the team we actually kind of focused a lot of the attention on, and especially they shined a lot in some of the other game modes, right? Whether it's Spider Tower, whether previously it was the Blade Tower, and now, even right now, if you're going through the Fear Tower, the Omen team has really just shined, right? Level 105, G20, and Minerva, one of my favorite characters as well. Ronan, he was okay. I just brought him to 105. Cull as well, very, very cool because he's part of that Black Order team. And of course, we do have Ebony Maw here. And I like letting my kids promote my diamonds for me, so I'm not able to push Ebony Maw there. But yeah, and then of course as well, Surfer Breaker. Now, I am thinking that he's most likely for sure going to come back sooner than later. And I'm thinking maybe he'll be back with the mighty Storm Tower as well, but hopefully sooner than later, because people still want to get some shards on him if they missed it, or maybe they want to earn another shot at the leaderboards and get some reds. So we'll see. We'll have to see what they do here. And now currently as well, we have Quicksilver Symbiote. We've basically got all the shards for him now, and it was a good event. And then we'll have another week of it as well. But just so you guys are aware, right, that essentially this team is pretty much unskippable, right? You can't skip the arena meta team. At least right now, until they may add additional rewards like they did with his orbs, the Rumble orbs. So you can't really skip arena. But now we're moving into this next age where we have the Amazing Avengers, and we've pushed a lot of these guys up as well here because we want to farm the G21s in the raids, right? And I initially had Spider-Man and Hulk actually at 110, which was great for us because they were just beastly. But then we had to bring up Rachel, and we had to bring up Spider-Woman as well. And luckily for us, we've been able to farm their shards as well in the store. So that's kind of nice. Now we have these two new teams, right? We have the Dread, which we were basically talking about. And then, of course, as well, this Timeless Eternal. I don't know if the Timeless Eternal is kind of worth the investment right now because the team's not even complete until Athena and Gilgamesh are in. It doesn't really matter, but the Dread team for sure. I've already pushed my Scorpion Breaker to tier 20 for the power cores, but for sure, you're going to need to balance out whether or not you want to build this team up. And I don't know if we're going to be able to skip these guys because if you think about it, people were wanting to skip Exalted, and they were pretty much needed for the current breaker, and then you had to bring it up. And then of course as well, Quicksilver and his gang have just been insane for all the breakers, so you can't really skip that team. Omen has been really good for the Storm Tower, the Blade Tower, and so I don't know if this team at any point is skippable anymore. But you can work well with a minimum wise team with Minerva, Maul, and of course as well Surfer Breaker, just because they have so much utility, they have so much heals, they have rewind, they got so much going on, right? But now with this Dread team, like for myself, it's going to be really hard because even with, let's say Mr. Negative, for me to bring him up from 4 to level 110, that's the rest of my training materials, right? That's the rest of my orange stuff that we have here. And it's going to be brutal when I do have to level them up, but I'm not doing it just yet. But I don't know if we're going to be able to skip these guys because if you think about it, we've already had to use Exalted. We've already had to use the Amazing Avengers in certain sections of the Breaker. And now, depending on what events they have next for the next couple months, right, they are definitely for sure going to open up the floodgates to allow for Dread and to allow maybe even perhaps for the Timeless Eternals, right? We'll have to see here. I don't know if it's going to be possible to build both these teams up for myself, but we're going to have to think strategically and probably do some minimums here, especially for the Dread team. I do have my Scorpion Breaker built up pretty far here, so he is probably most likely going to be able to carry. But in order for his Contagion to be even effective, he needs at least 3 Dread allies. So if you guys are starting to think about some of the characters that you want to bring up for Dread, what I highly, highly recommend is if you are thinking about Bullseye, be very, very careful with his last T4 because basically... on Crucible with 3 Dread allies cannot gain blind. So this safeguard and blind mechanic is very important because yes, we don't want them getting safeguard, but then if they don't get blind, then Rhino doesn't activate his passive, which basically I guess clears blind from his allies. And if you max this thing out, I don't even know if it does anything else. But yeah, basically he clears the blind, and then he fills the speed bar. So I don't know. It might be one of those situations where you have to wait and see. But the safeguard's pretty important. So I guess we'll have to see here. But yeah, anyways, the 3 that I'm probably most likely building up is probably most likely. Obviously we've already got Scorpion built up, but I'm gonna most likely bring up Mr. Negative because his stats are insane. He's kind of on the stats table. He's up there. And he's got a ton of stats as well to show for it. So he most likely will be one of them. I want to have some sort of a taunter, so I'm probably most likely going to have Rhino in here. And I have a little bit of soft spot for, the whole Spider-Verse, the whole Spider-Man universe sort of thing. So I kind of have a little soft spot for them there. So obviously between those 3, it's going to be a toss-up between Electro and Bullseye. And I'm definitely for sure more of an Electro fan than I am for Bullseye. But Bullseye brings a lot of nice bonuses with his attacks. And yeah, we'll have to see here on offense. He gains crit chance and crit damage, right? So it's going to be hard here. And then if you go into Electro's kit, let's see here. She gets piercing damage, and then Dread allies, they gain enemies cannot gain assist now. So I don't know, maybe this entire team isn't skippable, but for sure I'm going to do the same approach what I did with the Shadow Conclave, where I built up 4 members first. I actually skipped Malekith, and I did my Thanos was already built up, so I only had to do Executioner and High Evolutionary, and Sylvie was already built up as well here because she was part of the previous raid team with the Bifrost, right? So that was fine. And then, of course, as well, when we had to build up the Omen team, our Minerva and our Maw were already kind of sort of built up. Surfer Breaker was obviously a must, and then we actually built up Ronin first because I liked his ability blocked. So we built him up before Cull, but then we realized Cull was really nice because in the Blade Tower, he was just a massive meat shield, and it was really hard to pass him up. So then I eventually built him up. But if you guys are looking to build these guys up right now, start with 4 because they only need the bonuses with 3 allies, with 3 Dread allies. And yeah, that's important. That means you don't need to have the full 5-piece team. So if you're trying to save some resources there, for sure, build up the 4 first before you build the 5. Otherwise, you're going to be strapped for resources. And like I said already, just bringing up Mr. Negative from level 4 to 110 is going to pretty much, that'll be the end of my orange materials. And until I can get some more, it's going to be a very, very dangerous situation where I've got a lot of gold. I've got a decent amount of gold still, but my training materials is definitely killing me here, and for sure, I'm not going to do anything just yet. Again, let's see what they respond with. Let's see what else they got coming on the pipeline. But otherwise, I wouldn't level any of these teams up unless you've already built them up and you've got the luxuries of the training materials and the gold. But just be very, very careful here, and we'll see what the week brings and whatever the coming weeks are here. Other than that, guys, still on vacation for another week or so. So appreciate you guys tuning in. Appreciate all the comments. Apologies I haven't had time to kind of comb through it, but I am definitely for sure once I am back the following week here, I will definitely for sure be reading everything, and hopefully you guys were able to get through some of the content that I've pumped out. Other than that, I hope you guys have a lovely Monday. I hope you guys have a lovely rest of your week. I'll see you guys in the next one.